Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a crazy show for you today. So the Democrat mayor of College Park, Maryland, has been charged on Thursday with 56 counts of child pornography-related charges. What in the world is going on? He once described Pete Buttigieg as his mentor. He has been in the White House recently, and we'll cover that story closely. And this clip of Jimmy Kimmel's been going viral on Twitter.
Needless to say, all this UFO talk has the tinfoil hatters going wild, including Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who offered
where Jimmy Kimmel mocks Aaron Rodgers for having a theory around Epstein's flight logs. Weird. We'll talk about that too. God bless you. The show starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today's episode, we're going to talk about a Democrat mayor arrested on multiple counts of child porn charges. Crazy stuff that will probably not be covered in the media, although it should. And then also Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about Aaron Rodgers and his crazy, kooky Epstein flight log conspiracy theory. We're going to watch those clips and respond. And if I lose this on Facebook, sometimes they're iffy with copyright laws. It is what it is. It's worth it. So I'm going to read this from Fox. I read CNN, Fox, a few other articles. CNN didn't really say much about his politics. It's just like, mayor, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And I found that the Fox article had a little bit more info, including that this Maryland mayor, there's lots of pictures of him at pride parades. Of course, I'm sure like a lot of people, they just hide their entire identity behind LGBT. He was arrested, but he said that Pete Buttigieg was his mentor. So pretty wild stuff. So let's look at the article. I'm just going to read it. The Maryland mayor, charged on Thursday with 56 child pornography-related charges, has visited the White House several times since President Biden took office and previously described Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg as his mentor. College Park, Maryland's mayor, Patrick Wojahn, resigned Wednesday night ahead of being arrested by Prince George's County Police Thursday on 40 counts of possession of child pornography and 16 counts of distributing pornography. Crazy. All right, I'm going to read that again. 40 counts of possession of child pornography and then 16 counts of distributing them. Disgusting. Wojahn, a Democrat, said in his resignation letter that he would cooperate with law enforcement and did not wish to serve as a distraction. You think so? While this investigation does not involve any official city business of any kind, it is in the best interest of our community that I step aside, he said. While the population of College Park is less than 40,000, it has allowed Wojahn, who has been College Park's mayor since 2015, to rub elbows with several powerful politicians, including a top Biden cabinet official, and made multiple visits to the White House. According to White House visitor logs, Wojahn visited the White House once in 2021 on June 25th. He would then make two more visits in 2022 on June 15th and September 13th. According to Wojahn's Instagram and the White House website, Wojahn was in attendance at an event commemorating LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Pictures from his Instagram show Biden and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg giving remarks for the event. So a Democrat mayor, LGBTQ plus, arrested on child porn charges. I want to play the Jimmy Kimmel clips and really respond to that. But I guess here's what I'll say. I really, unfortunately, just don't trust a lot of left-wingers now. It's not because of partisan politics. I don't care if you like the welfare system. I don't care if you have different views on abortion. I mean, I have my views now as a man, but in general, what I don't trust about left-wingers, especially the LGBTQ plus left-wingers, is just the fact that they're not willing to admit what's too far. Like, if you're like, this is my beliefs and this is my sexuality, but I understand what you're talking about here, it's easier for me to trust you. Be like, okay, yeah, we have disagreements, but you seem like a pretty reasonable person. But when you play this game of I'm the victim, you can't criticize me, you can't make jokes about me, nothing's too far. I think that biologically born men should play sports. I don't even see the difference of that. I don't see that it's a bad thing to give this to like 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds. At this point, it's like I'm not going to just call everybody a pedophile or anything, but it does seem like you don't know the slippery slope at all. Like, you can't be like one of the right-wing people that's like, yeah, that's kind of like too far. Not all left-wingers are like that, but in the mainstream era, it's like not only are you LGBTQ plus and you're proud, but you're hiding all of this other stuff behind that. Like, you can't even put an age limit on it. You're not like, oh, okay, they shouldn't do this in schools, or, that's wrong, or like drag queen story hour is a little weird, or like, bringing kids to a pride event is maybe too far, or, it's like there's no moral boundary at all. The slippery slope is just like whatever, and anything goes. And, I'm not surprised if there's a lot more stories out like this, because I'm not going to say everybody's involved, because it's just not true. But when you can't draw a line, and I can see that you're not willing to just like protect children or say that that's too far, the most easy one to tell if somebody's a liar or not is to talk about sports. Even if you're pro LGBTQ+, you think transgenders should do whatever they want, you have to understand how sports work. Have you never seen the NBA versus the WNBA? Do you not understand how biology works? So even if you say, I'm going to call them a she, I believe that's a woman, I think they should transition. If you can't look me in the eye and say, but I understand that probably in sports we shouldn't allow trans competitors because, male to female will have a massive advantage if they're a great athlete against a female. If you can't even look me in the face and tell me that, like Caitlyn Jenner, for example, who admits that obviously as an Olympic athlete themselves, it's hard for me to trust you on any of these topics, because that's such a simple thing. You don't have to be hateful. You don't have to be right-wing. You don't even have to condemn like what they're doing. You just have to tell the truth on such a small scale. If you can't do that, what else are you lying about? That's all I'll say. So the left-wing, brigade of this, it's like the dishonesty is what else are you doing? Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody tells little white lies. But if you can't tell the truth about something so simple and basic and not hateful, like what else are you willing to lie about? That's my opinion. Let me know yours. Here's some clips of Jimmy Kimmel. This might get the video taken off Facebook, but I got to play it. Jimmy Kimmel's trying to make Aaron Rodgers look crazy because Aaron Rodgers has a theory about the Epstein flight log. Like, this is how low the Stephen Colberts and the Jimmy Kimmels of the world are going to be, like the little puppet propaganda on television. I have it in 5 different clips to try to avoid a copyright strike. I have Fair Rights Use Act. It's not like I'm not allowed to do this, but obviously Facebook, YouTube, they don't always care. Here's the clips. I'm going to play them in 5 different clips. It's 40 seconds long. Let's look.
Needless to say, all this UFO talk has the tinfoil hatters going wild, including Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who offered this hot take on the Pat McAfee.
Green Bay whackpacker. So that's how he's describing Aaron Rodgers. Whackpacker. Like, it's just like such a fake script. Whackpacker Aaron Rodgers. What's this crazy thing Aaron Rodgers is talking about? Let's see. Is it Epstein's flight logs? I think it is.
I believe that this has been going on for a long time. Interesting timing on everything.
What's interesting? Let's look at the next part. This whackpacker. What does he have to say?
There's a lot of other things going on in the world. Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released too?
What's that? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about, Aaron?
There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
Oh.
Here's Jimmy Kimmel's response to him just talking about Epstein flight log being released.
Oh. Might be time to revisit that concussion protocol, Aaron.
Ha 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 ha. You must be brain damaged, Aaron Rodgers. You must have brain damage because you're talking about Epstein's flight logs. Ah, dude, Jimmy Kimmel is like a top scumbag. And it's weird because the Epstein thing is pretty nonpartisan. Obviously, left-wingers will say that Trump's involved because Trump has pictures and videos with Epstein. Right-wingers will talk about Bill Gates and all these other people. But the truth is, everybody knows Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody knows what he was doing. Everybody knows that really no one's been held accountable besides Ghislaine Maxwell. Everyone knows. So who's this audience? I'm just curious. Who's this audience that Jimmy Kimmel's pandering to be like, the Epstein flight logs? I mean, this crazy tinfoil kooky guy. And I understand maybe Aaron Rodgers was saying other things were covering up the Epstein's flight logs, suggesting that maybe this other news was coming out to cover that stuff up. While that may or may not be true with the UFO story or something, I don't know. When there's a story, everyone always has an opinion of what it's covering up. Oh, they don't want you to talk about the war. They don't want you to talk about the pedophiles. They don't want you to talk about Epstein. They don't want you to talk about Biden. Then they'll be like, ooh, it's covering up. So everyone has a theory of what story is covering up what story. But for Jimmy Kimmel to just sit there and act like it's this kooky thing that he's talking about Epstein's flight logs, I mean, who believes this guy? It's absolutely insane. who believes him? Because Democrats know damn well who Jeffrey Epstein is. There's mainstream, Netflix shows about Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody knows about Jeffrey Epstein. Everyone. I would say there's probably less than 5% of people who are like, oh yeah, that's just a crazy conspiracy theory. They're like, no one believes that stuff. In fact, probably the audience that's there has to be told to laugh and stuff. It's like laugh, clap. That's how it is at those things, What a bizarre, very bizarre. Will Jimmy Kimmel and Trevor Noah, if he even has a show anymore, Stephen Colbert, all these guys, will they talk about the Democrat mayor, the LGBTQ plus mayor who got caught with child pornography? Is that too far on the slippery slope? Because I would say so. Of course, there's going to be a further, I don't know if I'd say investigation, a court. Everybody has the right to a fair trial, but it's not looking good for this guy. We'll see what happens with it. Like I said earlier, when someone sits there and says, hey, oh, Epstein flight logs, that's so crazy, it makes you look complicit. I'm not going to say he is complicit. I'm not just one to throw out accusations, but if that's what you're doing, reading a script saying Aaron Rodgers is crazy, that Jeffrey Epstein, like, oh, the client list, it's distracting from, it makes you look like you're in on it some way, directly, indirectly, you're covering up for somebody, people have their own theories. I'm not going to make that claim that you are, because I don't do that type of reporting. But if you can't even look me in the face and say, yes, Jeffrey Epstein seemed like he existed. Yes, it's weird that no one else has been held accountable. Yes, it's very odd what happened to him in the jail. Yes, it's kind of crazy how many people were probably involved. Yes, it probably spanned both parties. It probably went into Democrats and Republicans. If you can't have that conversation with me and you're just like, oh, crazy Aaron Rodgers, like, how could I believe anything you say? But I've known Jimmy Kimmel as a phony for at least 6-7 years now. I mean, these type of people, the Colberts and the Jimmy Kimmels, they're no longer simply just comedians. It's like a script reader and a narrative controller. They just control the narrative. It's Russia collusion. It's Ukrainian war. It's, it's crazy to not want to get a COVID vaccine. It's crazy to talk about the Epstein flight logs. Like, it's like pure propaganda script reading. And Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, I mean, how have you not realized that they've sold out? It's so obvious. And then when it comes to, like I said, left-wingers, if you can't even talk about sports and who should compete in what sports, how can you possibly be trusted? And this is the left versus right now. I saw in Portland that they're going to pay the homeless people now, or in Oregon, because it's run by Democrats. They're trying to give homeless people money now. Expect it to grow. When you don't have the discipline to say, hey, we don't want homelessness, we're going to try to help you. However, we need to make sure that it doesn't just grow and we're not incentivizing homeless and we're looking after the tax-paying citizens and the children. When you stop doing that, you get homelessness growing, and then you incentivize the people doing it and you stop people from getting rid of it. It's only going to get worse. And it's like that with like pedophilia and LGBTQ plus stuff. There has to be a line drawn somewhere. It's like, I'm not an anarchist personally. It's not like I'm like, oh, just, if you want to hurt somebody, hurt somebody. If you want to stab somebody for no reason and steal their food. I don't believe in that. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. These are good rules. And when it comes to like children, do you have a line? Don't you want to draw a line somewhere? The sports one is the easy one, because it's like you don't realize how much of an advantage biologically born men are at physically. It's a fact. Every man knows that. Every woman knows that. Every transgender knows that. It's just how like life works. You can't even say that. How are you to be trusted about it? Where is your line? We can debate complex issues, but where's the line? If you don't have one and you get mad at people for drawing one, it's impossible to trust you. Jamie Mitchell runs a Gays Against Groomers, which gets in massive trouble. They ban their pages. They ban their payment processes. This is a lesbian woman who is against what they're doing to the children. And look how much backlash they get from the left when there are people, quote unquote, in that community, quote unquote, understanding that, quote unquote, the line has to be drawn somewhere. There's Christians who want to draw it, and they don't even like Gays with Groomers because they don't really support anything LGBTQ. Then you have people in Gays Against Groomers who are like, yeah, I'm gay, but like, this is where I draw my line, and that's too far. And then you have the modern day left that says, what is a line? Like, we don't really want to draw it anywhere. And it's very, very bizarre, very, very untrustworthy, and very, very concerning. And Republicans make mistakes too and do bad things. I'm not acting like it's just left-wing gay people or anything, but this guy knew Pete Buttigieg. It doesn't mean Pete Buttigieg is responsible. I'm sure you've met hundreds of people and you're not responsible for everything they do. In politics, not everybody is like over someone's shoulder. You don't know exactly what people are doing behind closed doors. But here, in my opinion, is where it gets more interesting with the LGBTQ plus. You're basically taking, when you're like a Democrat like Pete Buttigieg or this College Park mayor, his name was Patrick Wojahn, you're not keeping your sexuality secret, and you're basically putting it on full display and being like, this is my sexuality. Pete Buttigieg shares my sexuality. Me and Pete Buttigieg are friends because we are this sexuality. So it's not like you're hiding it and keeping it secret or just kind of being broad. You're pretty much taking your sexuality, using it as your who you are, and connecting with other people because of your sexuality. Like, would him and Pete Buttigieg be as connected if they weren't both gay? No, I think that was a large reason of why they were connected and why he was a mentor, because he looked up to the other, gay person. So it doesn't mean it's Pete Buttigieg's fault or he's necessarily in on it, but it's definitely not a good look, and it's definitely suspicious when you're basically connected by your sexuality, and then someone of your sexuality does something not only illegal but immoral and psychotic. I think Pete Buttigieg should have to at least answer some questions. Let's just put it that way. How could he not get questioned about this? Hopefully some reporters ask him. Pete Buttigieg is having a rough year or two with transportation, with this. I mean, if he thought East Palestine was hard and that was a tough crisis to deal through, I would assume this would be just as, if not more hard, because someone who called him a mentor got caught with child porn and distribution. I mean, I don't really want to know, but for the sake of the story, I would like to know like what they were doing and how dark it was, because it's important, I think, to the story and to the court case. Let me know what you guys think. That's going to be it for now. If I don't see any good comments, I'm just going to cut it short. I just want to say a few things. Thank you to everybody who watches on YouTube, Facebook, BitChute, Rumble. Apparently, I'm having some upload problems, but I'm probably going to start live streaming to Rumble instead of uploading there. So thank you to everybody over there. I wanted to say for the podcast for Spotify and Apple, we've doubled our listener base. It's pretty much doubled in the last month or two. So I'm glad that's going in the right direction. Thanks to everybody following me on Instagram at Dream Rare. Thank you to everybody who looks at all my links. We have hats and shirts at dreamrare.com, and all my links are at dreamrarelinks.com. I'm going to read this comment. Drew said on YouTube, I live in Portland, fighting a murder charges for defending myself against a madman with a gun. Being locked up for 34 days, I found out homeless drug addicts have it so good the second they got out. Well, if that's true, God bless you. And I really don't doubt it. Obviously, I don't know if that's true because you just made a comment, but I don't doubt what you're saying, because in liberal areas, in liberal cities, and in liberal states, they make it hard for the law-abiding gun owner. It's like if somebody robs your shop, sometimes the shop robber has more rights than you do. It's insane. So if that's true, God bless you. And it's very difficult to defend yourself in a Democrat area. They're very strict on what you can and can't do. In fact, I used to live in LA, and my friends art studio got broken into, and all these places got broken into, and the cops, sometimes the cops don't even want to do anything in Los Angeles. They're like, that guy, we really can't do anything about it. It's like, how could you not do something about it? They're like, well, the city rules are kind of tough and we don't want to get in trouble. It's a very broken, backwards worldview that these people have. And if we just had simple disagreements about certain topics, it's not really a big deal, but it is a big deal when you see how they're running cities and, I guess propagandizing children and ruining pretty much everything. I don't know, every commercial's big pharma. If it's not, it's some degenerate thing. It's getting really bizarre. You would think the positive as I leave is it can't get much crazier than this, can it? Maybe it can, but you would think that the pendulum would swing back soon and people would get to sanity. Let me know what you think. God bless you. That's the story of the day. That's my slight opinion on it. And thanks for everybody listening to Dream Rare Podcast. All my links are dreamrarelinks.com. We got everything, all socials. Thanks for being here.